This is the Benefits Buzz Podcast, your weekly pulse on what's happening in the world of employee benefits. Brought to you by your friends at WEX, who believe in simplifying benefits for everyone. Now listen up and let's get buzzed.
Welcome back to Benefits Buzz, a WEX podcast. In today's episode, we'll continue on to part 2 of our series, Top Benefit Challenges HR Teams Face Today. In this episode, we're going to explore a little bit about how evolving technology can lighten the workload for HR professionals. We're also going to talk about some key considerations when choosing a benefits provider. And of course, we're going to include a Q&A session in there as well. What'd I miss, Eric?
Well, you teed it up perfectly, Nathan. We let them with a good cliffhanger, cutting in the middle of that webinar. It's a great way to finish that off. So check it out. There's a great engagement guide. If you haven't taken a look at that yet, it's in the show notes. Check it out. It's a great deliverable that came from that wonderful webinar. So enjoy the rest of this episode. You talked about a couple of things. That's AI, which is, again, a beautiful segue to my next question, which was one of the top, challenges, which is around how do we leverage technology, right? How do we keep up? What's happening? Where do I implement? Where do I not implement? What is just buzz? What's actually happening? And so, Mark, I want to target this at you. I know you part of your bio, you love to sit on technology boards, and I definitely know you have a passion for this. And so maybe my question again, any challenges that you saw at the beginning of the call, you saw those polls, I'll ask you to respond to that if there's anything you're not seeing or want to expand on anything. But also specifically, the second part will be let's talk about technology. How is it evolving the HR process? Whether that's been administration or the HR team's workload, would love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. It's funny. If you look at all those categories, I think the biggest problem is people's understanding and or perception of technology. Because when I look at all those categories, each one of them has a flavor of technology that could be woven into it. In order to attract and retain, we need to adopt more technology. In order to build a better, it all boils down to that. And so I think if you, and you can speak to technology without really speaking to it as being a thing. When I look at all of these topics, I think the biggest challenge that HR folks are facing is meeting the expectations of an employee that is driven by the experience that they are hoping to get. We live in an experience-driven world. We get it in every aspect of our day. Liz talked a little bit about streaming services, and we spend more time there. I would say the reason we do is because the options that are presented to us are all so darn good. They're all match up with what we want because the company that's streaming that to us knows who we are. They use the technology and the data to present options to us that are just tough to decide upon. Because I like that show and that show. Wow, these are all great. Yeah, that's why I'm seeing them, because somebody used the technology. And so within the workforce, when you think about the world that we live in right now and these expectations and experiences that are transcending industry and transcending our personal and work life, folks are expecting that better experience internally. And they're not necessarily getting it everywhere. So if your expectation goes up and your experience stays the same, even though we're providing the same great benefits, and we talked about them, they're actually more expensive and we're providing them more and more, the perceived value goes down. So that perception, unfortunately, is reality. And we hear that every day. So the good news is, to my question, technology is evolving, at a clip. The amount of solutions that are out there to solve for problems unlike ever before. The systems that we're using today, integration's better than it ever has been. If you think about the opportunities for AI, with generative AI and new language models, it's made a lot of utilizing tools to gather information that much easier. There's more opportunities than ever to put mobile or text friendly communications in front of your employees. The analytical tools that exist in every platform and in point solutions are incredible. They're pulling the data together and giving you answers, right? So and all of these things would streamline the HR tasks so they can focus in on the people. I always hear a lot of conversation around, well, technology can't replace people. No doubt. But technology, and I get a lot of we're not a technology company. maybe not with a capital T, but everybody's a technology company with a lowercase t. If we're not using the technology to automate the mundane, we don't have time to get into the personal aspects of managing people. And so I would suggest that the technology is evolving quite fine, probably faster. What's not evolving is our adoption of it. And I would suggest that the companies that are on the other end of the line, our company, everybody is reluctant to adopt because it takes a lot of time. And I don't have, well, guess what? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if we don't embrace the new tools and don't look at it as technology, find the problems, find what part of your day stinks, and use a tool to fix it, is what I would say.
That's great advice. It's great advice. I love that expectation, right? Like, again, we are experiencing technology and AI everywhere in our lives, and we expect that same when it comes to the benefits. If not, right, why not, right? And so it's great to hear there are already being strides made, within AI and leveraging some of those technologies within the benefits area. Mark, you covered a couple of those, and I know we can dive. I'm already seeing a couple of questions jump in for the Q&A that we can tackle at the end. I don't want to steal any thunder from that, but we'll get to more of some of the specific examples later on in this call. I'd like to move on to you, Michelle. We haven't picked on you yet. You're waiting so patiently. I love it. I'd like to focus, again, love to get your thoughts on those top challenges. And also, a big question that a lot of employers have is around like the criteria. What criteria should we be holding, these, technology administration partners too, when they're choosing, evaluating? We talked a lot about engagement. We've talked a lot about technology. We've talked about how we're meeting those needs. Love to get your perspective as you're consulting with employers about, what is that litmus they should be holding these administration partners to?
Yeah, that's great, Eric. Thank you. And I think the answer to this question is kind of a culmination of everything that Barb, Liz, and Mark just talked about.
It's great.
I think good timing here. So I think the first consideration is for the employer themselves, right? Who am I? What's my industry? What does my workforce dynamic look like or demographic look like? And then consider, where am I coming from, right? Believe it or not, we're still dealing with employers that are coming off of paper. So that's a very different experience than a second or a third generation, Ben admin adopter. So I think there's some internal questions, the employer should consider first. And even before going to the vendor, making sure that before they embark on this project, that they've got all of the internal key stakeholders engaged. And that hopefully throughout that process, they've also made sure that they've got budget approvals so that, they don't get to the end and, by the way, you can't afford that. So I think a little bit of internal assessment is the place to start. Secondarily, I think the most important thing then is, what are the benefits that we're offering today? What does our current state look like? And then what are our goals? Where are we going to go from a benefit strategy? Barb talked about, the standard benefit offerings, we all know our medical, dental, vision, and even life and disability. But today, the product suite that employers are offering is growing exponentially. There's a big focus on voluntary benefits to support the core benefits, as well as, the addition of lifestyle type benefits and additional types of spending accounts. So I think that's really important. And then in doing so, if you're going to offer a wide range of benefits like that, as Liz mentioned previously, making sure that the platform has a decision support tool, right, that's going to support that. So, which then all of that sort of leads to the effective communication and education of employees. But in addition, I think to the benefits that are being offered, it's also important to look at who are the carriers that I'm working with, and what are their technical capabilities. For example, especially on the voluntary side, we're seeing the the technology, the carriers spending, a lot of money and investment on technology and transitioning from the old world of EDI files that, are uploaded once a week to APIs, which are providing a real-time experience. That's something that is going to enhance the overall employee experience when they're enrolling in a Ben admin platform. If, for example, evidence of insurability is real-time, that can almost help guarantee, a voluntary life insurance adoption will be greater because, the yes or no answer is provided real time as opposed to having to wait for an answer and having to wait for HR to go in and say, yes, you're approved. And, those arduous pieces of the process. So I think all of those things are really important, relative to the employee experience. I think configurability, the larger the employer gets and the more complex their benefits or their internal eligibility structure is, it's really important that, they have a platform that can be configured to match that. Your contribution structure is important there as well, especially I believe someone mentioned, more and more employers doing salary bands and different things. So lots of things to consider around configurability. Another big piece is what is the vendor's implementation support and ongoing customer service look like? Not every employer is equipped to totally manage software as a service. They definitely need the hand-holding of their vendor. So that's another really important consideration. I also think that ownership, when I'm going out to market, am I going to an independent benefit administration platform technology? Am I going to an HCM that's got Ben admin as part of their solution? Or am I going to an enrollment firm that, is putting in technology that might be a little bit more focused on the voluntary benefits? And then lastly, I think it's really important also to know and understand in each of those scenarios, one of the things we're hearing about all the time, and you can't get away from it, it seems like any day in the news, is security, right? Making sure that the right, and I think most of the organizations we deal with certainly do, but making sure that the right security protocol, provisions against cybersecurity and such, especially since these companies are all handling PPI, it's really important. So I think all of those things are very important. It's, today when you're making a decision, and again, the larger you get, when you're making a decision to change your Ben admin platform, don't think about that as a short-term decision, right? Think about it. Nobody wants to lift and shift every 2 to 3 years. It's a ton of work. So, really consider all of these components and work to, find someone that's going to be a partner with you throughout this journey, that's going to support your strategy as it evolves and will enhance your overall employee experience.
Great response. Appreciate it, Michelle. Got a lot of good checklists there. Hopefully everyone's making their checklist of things that you covered. I'm also seeing tons of good stuff. Anyone else? Mark, I think I might have cut you off there, but you wanted to add something to the response?
Yeah, no worries. I was just going to say one thing. I think that there's not one solution out there that's going to solve all of HR's problems. So the willingness and ability for that platform to integrate within an ecosystem is super important. I think you can, I think everybody's going to say yes, right? But the question is, are they really doing it? So, talk to them about their roadmap and their strategy and their integrations and who they're talking to and how they, visualize that HR ecosystem. That'll tell you a lot about capabilities, whether or not they're just saying yes to help you get the deal or not. And I would also say, one of the things we've been talking about technology, but it's really about the data that the technology is gathering that helps you drive these better experiences. The technology is just the mechanism to get it done. And so if a vendor doesn't have a willingness or ability to share data outside of the silo, you really can't accomplish that understanding of who your people are and communicate strategies effectively, personalize the experience. So if there isn't a willingness to share data, that's a red flag for me as well. So I think a couple of the favorite things, and certainly I think Michelle hit it as far as like where in their like growth mode are they as a company? What's their roadmap look like? What are their their plans? because a lot of it is in using technology is changing behavior. So you'd hate to get to a point where you've changed your whole behavior of your team, and now you have an issue with that vendor, leaving the ecosystem and now having to retrain people and change them, which is, I would argue, to be the most difficult portion of this whole thing, not the technology.
I think that's great, Mark. I think, reporting, I was probably remiss in not mentioning reporting and data analytics, right? And again, the larger the employer, the more important the ability to pull that data so that they can make better benefit decisions, in the future is so key. We hear the term predictive analytics all the time. Again, the ability to get that information out to be able to, put together a more comprehensive benefit strategy that hopefully is going to help with a little cost containment. Is also key.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said, Mark, about being a transformational change. And I think technology can be an enabler, but you have to have some underlying change management in place to kind of get the organization to a better place. It's going to take some investment in technology and in people. But I think out the other side, we've seen success after success with customers that have improved outcomes on the other side of that.
Yeah, and I was just going to chime in and say, I think where we've gotten remiss is we think about benefits being HR's challenge. I think when you can step back and bring that challenge into your organization and, get your technology team engaged to understand how you want to use the data that we're talking about, get your marketing team engaged to think about how do we think about and I saw a question about this, the benefits, and I only communicate once a year. How do I communicate more often? If you get your marketing team helping you think about the journey of your employees, like they think about the journey of their customers, right? It starts to create more mind power and less about it being an HR responsibility and more about it being the entire organization. And I'm going to say that broader. You should be expecting that kind of engagement from your partners who are helping you, whether it's your broker consultant, whether it's your administrator, whether it's your network. You should be looking at a broad range of people. This isn't one person's problem. And as you've heard us all already say this afternoon, there's not a magic answer. It has to be a combination and a strategy that's unique to you and your population.
Good stuff. Good dialogue. I love that we're getting candid too and being authentic and keeping it real with our listeners, because these are really great things to make sure that your administrator is thinking about and providing. So thank you all. We have had a fantastic already, without even me prompting very much, we've had a lot of great questions come in. And I think we've left at least a good 12 minutes of our time today to listening to what questions you all have. And so I already see a couple have come in, and I'm going to go ahead and bring a couple up. But if you haven't had a chance to get your question, please submit it now. Hopefully we'll have time. And I will say probably won't have to, based on the number I've got already here, I might not get to them all, but we will make sure and follow up with you directly to get you that answer. This one caught my attention. We'll start here. It's as good a place as any. We had a great question come in. It says, a challenge I see is with smaller clients wanting to communicate benefits to employees using all of the latest technology. Mark, some of the ones you maybe talked about, all the bells and whistles, but the problem is they can't afford it. So do you have any suggestions to offer them?
I mean, I think, I'm sorry. Did you?
No, go ahead.
I think existing partners continue to advance their technology, many times at a clip more than the existing employer knows about or pays attention to. And I think system optimization and taking more advantage of the tools you have actually can allow you to bring a lot of things into play that may not have an additional cost. You just didn't realize it was a feature of your system sitting in this SaaS model, the world that we live in. And the cloud-based, there's a lot of functionality that comes into play that people don't know about. So I think number one, look within and see if there are, features and functionality that you're not using currently that maybe you're already paying for. I think you'd be surprised in many cases. Michelle, sorry.
Oh, no, that was a great answer. I think I would just add to that, work with your benefits broker and your carriers. Very often, they will offer technology credits to offset the implementation of a new platform, or to add additional lines of coverage. So there are ways to get some of the costs of a benefit administration platform subsidized.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was going to say. But I think also what you said earlier, Michelle, about knowing your budget, and having done kind of that internal assessment first. Because if you can kind of help say, I know where I need to be, then a lot of times folks in the ecosystem can help figure out creative ways to be able to help implement those features and functionality with staying in the budget that's been set.
Great. Another one. These are great. Can you talk about the best way to get the SLT, I'm assuming senior leadership team, buy-in and budget approval to solve top HR team challenges?
I don't have, I don't know if there's a silver bullet out there, but the reality of it is, someone addressed before, maybe Elizabeth chimed in around the fact that when we talk about technology and we talk about any digital or any type of transformation, it's got to be a cultural thing. It has to start from the top. It has to bleed down, because it's not an overnight change. So I think when working with your team needs to be bought into the fact that this investment in people is going to impact the bottom line somewhere. Just not benefit cost, but true engagement affects productivity, it affects morale, turnover that we know is very costly. So if you're not creating that better experience and that better environment, benefits plays a big role in it. A lot of HR function plays a big role in it. If they're not bought into that, you're going to have a challenge. So I think there's enough data out there to point to it, to be able to make put together a nice ROI and a use case. But it kind of needs to start there. I think it's not just isolated into one little area. It's more of a global belief that people are integral, and HR plays a big role in driving that culture to that experience.
Yeah, that was the one thing I would add.
Oh,
go ahead, Michelle.
You go first, Liz.
I was going to say, ask your technology providers to help with that business case as well. They're probably used to helping with that. And then I think probably a similar question to the poll we asked here, when asking CEOs or other C-suite, they would probably say one of their top challenges is attracting and retaining talent, because, employees it's a big cost to every company. And so being able to tie that story in and how these tools help not only solve HR challenges, but solve broader challenges across the company, and being able to tie that all in together can really help, get kind of the business case up to the level in which is going to catch their attention.
Liz, you must have been sitting in my mind. You said exactly what I was going to say. Beautifully said. Thank you.
That's great. I'm actually seeing a couple of questions coming. We must have piqued some interest on some of the things that we've talked about. There's a couple of questions around WEX, what WEX provides, and I'll throw this one out there really quickly. Does WEX support LSAs or lifestyle spending account plans? Yes or no?
100%. We absolutely do. And you should reach out to someone, or shoot me an email if you'd like more information and you haven't heard about it. We can certainly provide additional information and some guidance on design.
Beautiful. Here's another good one. How can we persuade and convince employers that benefits communications and education of employees should occur year-round? We talked about the year-round engagement instead of just, I love this, I'm going to quote, the hectic dance of open enrollment.
So yeah, I can start on that. So Michelle, I'll start and then have you chime in. Okay. I just want to go back to what I said earlier, which is it's about, part of it is in making it everybody's discussion and not just an HR challenge. I think also bringing some data together, and there is some data out in the industry about how engagement throughout the year drives better outcomes. You got to start, and maybe the other piece of advice I would have is think about what the biggest thing you're trying to control. We talked about what level of engagement are we thinking about? What specific benefit of engagement are we thinking about? Take it small instead of trying to boil the ocean. Sometimes that's where it gets so overwhelming. So think about if you're really just trying to bring greater awareness to preventative care, how do you think about doing that, or think about a topic for each quarter? Those would be some of the things that I've seen some employers do that have had some success.
So I would just add to that, I think understanding, again, we talked to them earlier a little bit about the demographic of your employees, and, sort of trying to hit them with either moments that matter, and remind them of the benefits that they have, or even trying to correlate different times of year to the benefits. We often see people buy voluntary benefits as an example, and then they forget that they have them and they're not actually putting in the claim. So I think to Barbara's point, picking different topics and making sure that you're communicating and reminding employees, you've made a big decision, you've purchased these benefits, you're paying for them, make sure you're utilizing them, and especially putting the focus on preventive care. So potentially working, with the health insurance provider that you've elected to, make sure that there are campaigns around that as well, and folks are getting the services on the preventive end that they should be getting.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to it that, I think, and I would sound like a broken record, it's personalization. So you can't, if you are asked to do your grocery shopping once a year, between 2 weeks of late November to early December, or go out to Amazon and purchase everything once, you wouldn't be able to do it. And I also think there's this problem that we've kind of put out there. Life events are only associated with tax qualified benefits, and that's the POP plans and the pre-tax, and that's why we're going down that path. But life events happen every day. And as an employer, you have the most rich data set probably than anybody. You think of all these companies that are executing in a personalized fashion, they don't have near the data that you have. When people are getting raises, when people are moving, when they're having children. In some cases, some things about their overarching their medical state. There's a lot you can do that should be enough to drive that personalization throughout the year, just not once a year.
This is great. Well, I wish we had more time, but I see we've got about 2 minutes left to the top of the hour. If you did not get your question answered, we have them here. We'll make sure to reach out and get those questions answered for you. Thank you for being so engaged. Look, we covered a lot today, and I want to thank our panelists for their expertise, for their thoughts, and hopefully you found this extremely valuable. Prioritizing these aspects is going to help you cut down on costs, you can stay compliant, you can help your employees be financially well. If you are looking to overcome your top employee benefits challenges, we would love for you, this is a selfish, but we would love for you to head to our WEX's website to learn more. We would love our team to chat with yours. There was a couple more questions about what WEX offers in the Q&A. We would love to be able to do that. Everyone is going to be getting an engagement guide. We heard engagement and communication was the top challenge. Just so happened to be something we just finished a powerful piece on how to go ahead and achieve that. So everyone's going to get that, and that is listed in the resources section. So go grab it right now. If you haven't yet, you'll find some great ones, and then you'll see some QR codes. If you want to learn more, if you want to talk to our team, grab your cell phone, snap that quickly. We'd love to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you again to our panelists for your fantastic answers, and best of luck conquering your HR challenges. We're here to help. And until next time, take care. Hey, what a great way to finalize. It was it was a fun episode. It's always great with these, Nathan, to listen to. We love here at WEX talking about, we're so passionate about this stuff, to get to hear from the consultants and brokers who live this and breathe this every day. It was a really fun perspective. I hope our listeners really enjoyed it. And if you haven't yet, if you jumped into the second part of our 2-part series, it's like you watched the movie in the middle of it and you just found out why Bruce Willis is dead the whole time. I thought he was alive. So that's a Success reference for those of you who haven't seen the movie. Make sure you check out the part 1 of the 2-part series and make a lot more sense and a lot more great content in there, right?
Love that. Thanks, Eric. You know, it's amazing. Every time we go to one of these webinars, I feel like my respect for the HR team and just how much they actually handle just increases and increases and increases. Well, and thank you all for joining us on today's episode of Benefits Buzz. And don't forget to leave us a review and to subscribe so you can get notifications anytime a new episode comes out. We'd also love to hear what topics you're interested in, so please let us know.
WEX is in the business of simplifying benefits for everyone. Now, although we certainly hope our podcast sparks some aha moments, like that was pretty cool, but of course we cannot provide legal, investment, or financial advice. And, well, therefore, nothing shared in this podcast should be interpreted as such. We encourage you to seek out appropriate professional advice regarding your plans. Hey, congratulations! You made it through our disclaimer. Thanks for listening.